event of all. And we are still as excited and exhilarated, working with as much enthusiasm as we were in the previous models.
Yes, indeed, Advik, I do agree. Let's have a glimpse of the past two Emians on the screen. Who can forget the grand opening of the first MUN with over
With over 200 students from 22 schools across India participating as delegates, reporters, photographers, and caricaturists. The executive board members of KhaitanMUN, right from the Gender and Policy Committee to media and reportage, put forth their ideas to spark the thoughts that lead to a positive change in the world. Even in the second edition, with 34 schools and over 200 delegates from across the globe, the event proved to be quietly lively with unconventional and unique committees modeled on SDGs and Harry Potter universe. Young delegates participated enthusiastically in the qualitative debate. The two-day conference saw the delegates from across the world. The topics of discussion were aligned beautifully with the 17 Sustainable Development Goals prescribed by the United Nations. The past two experiences do make me all the more excited to witness what the third edition has got into it. 300 plus delegates, 55 schools from 7 different countries. Oof. Each year, we are having an increase in participation. The moment has finally arrived. We are immensely delighted to welcome our chief guest, Mr. Aditya Raj Kaul, journalist with the CNN News 18, our vice chairman, Mr. Anirudh Khaitan, our principal, Ms. Sonia Anil Verma, and other dignitaries, together with the delegates, chairpersons, and the audience to the Khaitan Public Schools Model United Nations Conference Thinkers Conclave 3.0, this time again global.
You know what, Advik? The one thing that I like about the Khaitan MUN is that it is a class apart from the other MUN conferences. Our purpose, in fact, is to use the format of the modern United Nations in order to make tangible social and political changes. It is a superlative platform for young minds to grow into thinking, analytical, and resolute individuals who are global citizens with a will and a plan to change the world for the better.
I totally agree, Shatakshi. In fact, keeping a brighter future in perspective, we have aligned the conclave with sustainable development goals that were adopted by all the member nations of the United Nations with the vision to set the world on a path towards sustainable development by the year 2030.
Yes, indeed. We should know that we firmly believe that if the world consciously works towards achieving this plan of action for people, planet, and prosperity, a brighter future is inevitable. Thus, with a focus on positive change, the Khaitan MUN Society presents a conclave of thinkers to affect qualitative transformation. Hence, our motto, Triumph Cogitandum, the victory of thought. We are very hopeful that everyone's experience will be enriching and memorable.
Now, let's introduce the soul of the MUN, the members of the organizing committee. The organizers are the people that row the boat for any event, responsible for everything and anything that may or may not happen. We would be lost without them. We have Arman Bagai, Akshat Prakash, Nishtha Khatri, Kritika Sharma, Sejal Kaur, Kushnur Kaur, Kavya Handa, Hitanshi Agarwal, Tanisha Sharma, Sana Singh Rausa, Diya Shukla, Shatakshi Tyagi, Chavi Kaul, Bhamini Agarwal, Advik Bharadwaj, and Dev Kaushik as the OC members.
It's time now to introduce you to the members of the core secretariat. We have amongst us the assiduous and meticulous Shitika Chauhan as USG organization,
The vociferous and ardent Adya Tripathi as USG Media and Marketing.
the synergistic and vehement Sanvi Rastogi as USG Internal Delegate Affairs,
The technoid and enthusiastic Amrit Chauhan as USG Technology and Marketing.
the industrious and benevolent Lakshita Sharma as USG Delegate Affairs,
The diligent and scrupulous Urvi Tyagi as USG Networking.
the emphatic and sedulous Asta Arora is the head of Delegate Affairs.
The amicable and fervent Rohan Verma is the overall head of the organizers.
Rashi Ratan is the Secretary General of this conference, undertaking the responsibility and the pride of the whole MUN.
All of these people have worked extremely hard to make this event come alive. They deserve our thanks for the endless hours that they have worked for and the dedication that they have shown to make this conference a real success.
Moving ahead, let us now be introduced with the committees of the event.
The first committee is the prison reforms and criminal justice system, where we will discuss the prison reforms from a human rights and socio-economic perspective, fundamental assumptions and objectives of the criminal justice system, together with the detrimental effects on families and communities of the prisoners.
The second committee is the question of child-friendly cities in urban planning, where we would be talking about the deliberation on child-friendliness indicators in urban planning, principles of creating environmentally sustainable, infrastructurally sensitive urban spaces, and implementation strategies.
The third committee is the platform economy, innovation workers' autonomy and rights. Here, we will brainstorm on how to employ a critical lens on the rise of digital platform based economic and work systems and its implications on work relations and labor rights, together with the employer employee relations, workers' rights, and regulatory frameworks.
The fourth committee is Nation and Well-being, question of happiness index and the psychosocial well-being of a nation, where we would converse on a universal adoption of happiness parameters and efforts of the United Nations Sustainable Development Network to evaluate India's psychological well-being, education, time, cultural diversity, governance, community, ecological resilience, and standards.
Great. Moving ahead, we have the fifth committee, which is the de-schooling and educational practice in the post-COVID world. Here, we will formulate an idea on how COVID-19 disrupted educational systems across the world, reflection of the nature, need for community participation in educational endeavors beyond settings of formal schooling.
The sixth committee is Farmers' Protests, Agricultural Entrepreneurship and Reforms, in which we would have a confab on the situation of the farmers' protests in India, fundamental democratic and political questions plaguing of agricultural sectors, articulating agricultural reforms, and deliberating on agricultural entrepreneurship as an emerging practice.
Last but not the least, the seventh committee is the future of gaming industry in virtual societies, brainstorming on the tremendously growing gaming industry and the platform of media and social engagement, critically evaluating the virtual reality for the future virtual societies, skill building and interactions, and economic growth.
We also have with us the international press, where instead of representing the interests of a single country, the international press allows participants to act as unbiased journalists, reporting on the proceedings of each simulation in the conference. Well, Advik, I have to say, what unique and free spirited committees we have.
Yes, as always. Moving ahead, now it's time to enthrall everyone with a soul stirring musical performance. It's this strange dichotomy that we are facing now. We need to stay apart, but we need to talk about togetherness. Keeping this in mind, we will be presenting a song full of unity, faith, and resolution to fight against this present situation. It pays tribute to the never give up attitude of the frontline workers and every individual helping to curb the impact of COVID 19 by putting their lives at risk. Hum Haar Nahi Manenge comes as a morale booster, providing the ray of hope. Original track is by A.R. Rahman and Prasoon Joshi. It is revisited by Michael Peter, our Western vocal facilitator, and performed by the students of KPS.
Dear audience, you are most welcome to write words of appreciation in the chat box.
एक दिया तुम्हारा और एक लौह मेरी टल जाएगी काली रात अंधेरी हम डोर डोर साहस बटोर लाएंगे हम डोर डोर साहस बटोर लाएंगे टूटेंगे नहीं नहीं हम हार नहीं मानेंगे हम हार नहीं मानेंगे हम हार नहीं मानेंगे कह दो हम हार नहीं मानेंगे हम हार नहीं मानेंगे हम हार नहीं मानेंगे कह दो हार नहीं मानेंगे कह दो जिनके रिश्ते गहरे गहरे होते हैं उनके दोनों पंख सुनहरे होते हैं दूरी उनको और पास ले आती है और राबिनी और खास हो जाती है हम बिखरा एक संसार नहीं माने हम हार नहीं मानेंगे कह दो हम हार नहीं मानेंगे हम हार नहीं मानेंगे हम हार नहीं मानेंगे कह दो हम हार नहीं मानेंगे हम हार नहीं मानेंगे
Wow. I mean, how mellifluous was that?
A true welcome is never complete without warm words and warmer gestures. Now, we would like to call upon our principal, who is the driving force behind the school. She constantly strives to create as many opportunities for us to learn and grow from as she can. She is the one who motivates us to reach for the stars. I would now like to invite ma'am to say a few words.
Thank you, Advik. It's a, it's a great pleasure to have amongst us our esteemed guest, Aditya Raj Kolji, Mr. Anirudh Khaitan, delegates from India, Nepal, UAE, Myanmar, Bahrain, Maldives, and Poland. Principals of all the 54 schools of 325 delegates, members of the organizing committee and delegate affairs, branding and marketing team, core team of faculty, student council, and the students from different classes, the parents, and the staff of Khaitan Public School. It's my pleasure to welcome you all to this occasion of the KhaitanMUN Global Thinkers Conclave 2021. Aditya ji, your presence will definitely be motivating and inspiring for our young delegates and all the attendees. And I'm sure today, after seeing the performance of the children, you would definitely go back and compare them to your level of media expectations. We are so happy to have you here with us today. Experiencing the changes in this last 1.5 years has made all of us venture into a new era of education. And I'm happy to see the participation of the delegates from almost 6 nations on this platform. We have been witnessing an increased participation in such event over the last 3 years. And it makes us believe that this new normal has brought us real opportunities to connect, collaborate, and create. Seeing all of you here is a timely reminder that our school exists to serve succeeding generations. I'm also heartened to see such a large and enthusiastic group of young adults engaged in global issues. Together, all of you represent the United Nations as it should be. People from all countries coming together to find solutions to the problems through constructive debate and an exchange of ideas. This model of United Nations is built on open minds and fresh ideas. Many of you will represent stands that you may personally disagree with. You will do so fairly and forcefully. This open-mindedness is the essence of successful diplomacy. The ability to understand and analyze all positions, including those that you oppose. And I think this is the sole motto, even with the new educational reforms being implemented in our country, India. The acceptance of different viewpoints distinguishes this conclave. And I believe that it will prove crucial as you assume leadership roles in the 21st century. Young delegates, it is when you are working and doing the deliberations in the conclave, you experience, you become representatives of the UN. The student ambassadors charged with building a better understanding of the organization, what it is, what it does, and what it can do. And you assume this responsibility at a crucial period in your life. Every day and on a wide range of issues, our school is expected to deliver in new and better ways. I wish all the delegates and the team members my best wishes and really feel happy to make this welcome address on the note when all young minds are there together, welcoming the students and delegates from all over the nation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for just creating such an optimistic aura and invigorating us with the motivating words. Our chief guest for the event is Mr. Aditya Rajkol, a noted journalist with CNN News 18. Mr. Kaur rose to the limelight through the first ever social media led campaign in India, Justice for Priyadarshini Mattu in 2006. Announced among the top 25 youth icons of the country, Sir is also one of the top 25 capital change makers in New Delhi. Sir is the founding member of Republic TV and has worked as an editor strategic affairs and internal security at Business Television India.
Mr. Kaul reported from Iraq during the height of ISIS, interviewed Palestinian President Mohammed Abbas in Ramallah about the Israel-Palestine conflict, and covered the recent Nuclear Suppliers Group NSG meeting in the demilitarized zone between North and South Korea, along with the coverage of the G20 summit in Australia, ASEAN in Malaysia, SAARC in Nepal, and the EU in Belgium. Sir has traveled extensively across the conflict-ridden state of Jammu and Kashmir and the Red Corridor of Maoist terror in Bastar.
It is definitely a pleasure for us to invite Mr. Aditya Rajkol to address the gathering and share his extensive experience with us. Over to you, sir.
Thank you so much to both the hosts. It's a great honor to be here. Sonia ji, the principal, Anirudh ji, and the entire Khaitan family. A very, very, a long introduction that was done, but I don't know how much I deserve. But it's a great honor to be here amongst you all because, while I was listening to you all and while I was listening to Principal Ma'am and I was listening to, the performance by the Khaitan Art Society, it reminded me of my own school and my days there. And one of the best memories that I have is certainly from my school days. And I studied in South Delhi in a school called Gyan Bharti. I'm sure many of you might have heard of it, some wouldn't. But one thing that I should begin by telling you all is that I'm very happy that a Model United Nations is being organized by Khaitan and more than 300 participants that are visible to me right now. And then I'm told by the principal ma'am that there are at least 9 other countries that are also participating. And so it's a great, it builds a great momentum really. Because I remember during my time, there was no social media. There was no digital age, a technological revolution. So to see young budding journalists, young budding technocrats, young budding experts in different fields to really debate it out in a Model United Nations would be really exciting. And that too, unfortunately or fortunately, through a digital medium. In many ways, this is positive. This brings us closer and, we can connect from anywhere, any part of the world. But unfortunately, due to COVID restrictions and, we are stranded in our household. And, unfortunately for you, when you all should have been in school, all year long in these 15, 16 months that have been very tough for the entire globe, you had to operate from your homes. But anyways, don't be disheartened. I'm sure days ahead would be much better. The COVID would be behind us and you'd again meet your friends, not just for sports, but for studies as well sometimes, and take the momentum forward. I don't have much to say because I don't want to bore you guys, with a boring speech. You often get that in school in the morning assembly. But, I'll just share a couple of experiences. Let me begin by sharing what I shared with your principal when I spoke to her briefly. I was a very shy kid. Many don't believe me now, but trust me, I was. I was a very shy kid. In my batch in school, I remember nobody knew me. Nobody knew my name. And years later, when they saw me on television, they were shocked that here's a guy, who nobody interacted with and nobody knew. He is actually, interviewing the Prime Minister, yesterday I interviewed the External Affairs Minister, the new External Affairs Minister, Meenakshi Lekhi. So don't give up. Don't give up on hope. Don't give up on anything in life. And whenever you fail, take it as the first step on the ladder to success. Because let me tell you, I come from an academic family. My parents are PhDs and, doctors. And my great-grandfather was the first ornithologist of India. But I was not studious at all in my life. I, in fact, failed in my college. I'm very upfront about it. Now, that does not mean that I'm asking you to fail. But whenever there is failure that comes in life, it's very important to fail. It's very important to fail because that makes you realize that you are this close to success. So never give up. Many years back, I met the former president of India, APJ Abdul Kalam. And he told me just one thing. I was a young kid and, he used to stay in my neighborhood as the DRDO chief. And many of you know that he loved children and he interacted with children. So on the eve of him becoming the president, because he stayed just a few buildings away, I took a few flowers and, greeted him. So he said, Aditya, I just have one thing to tell you. And repeat after me. Dreams transform thoughts into action. So you dream big. And when you dream big and you set your goals, you will certainly achieve something. Now, I'm not the first person to tell you this. You must have been hearing this for a decade now, in your motivational classes, in your extracurricular activities, in your sports field, from your principal ma'am, from many other, teachers, educationists. But I am an example. I'm a very small example. Nonetheless, I am an example of a failure initially in life. But I did try to set my small-term goals and do whatever I can. So discipline is important. Setting some kind of a goal is very important in life. And the goal can be anything. The goal does not mean that you have to bring 100% in your, all your classes on your subjects. The goal does not always mean that, you have to excel and, you have to perform better than your best friend. The goal does not mean that you have to be the champ in the class, always the prefect, always the, the best of the best. The goal means even the smallest of things, helping your grandparents, helping your family, volunteering for anything, having some kind of compassion in life, having empathy, a person who is down to earth, a person who is compassionate, a person who is empathetic, is, in my opinion, the best person. So never lose that. You might become a famous person tomorrow. You might become a very influential person. These days, there are social media influencers also. You might be very active on Instagram. You might have thousands and lakhs of followers there. But do remember that, where you came from, your roots. Yesterday, there's a great debate happening in India about language, about English, about Hindi. So while I tell you that it's important to learn English, it's very important to be competitive. It's very important to be aware about your, surroundings, what's happening around. But never forget your roots. Never forget where you came from. Never forget Hindi. You might be important person tomorrow, and you might be excellent and very fluent in your diction and English. मगर आप कभी भी ये ना भूलें कि हिंदी भी जरूरी है, या हिंदी ही जरूरी नहीं, आपकी कहीं की भी, आप जहाँ से रीजन से आते हैं, मैं कश्मीर से आता हूँ तो मुझे कश्मीरी आनी चाहिए, आप बिहार से आते हैं तो वहाँ की आपको लैंग्वेज आनी चाहिए, आप गुजरात से आते हैं तो वहाँ की लैंग्वेज आनी चाहिए. Be proud about that, and tomorrow it's going to help you, trust me. If you are sitting in United Nations, you're being interviewed by a top diplomat of United Nations for a job, and they will ask you that, okay, we are conversing in English, etc. But do you know your native language? Can you converse in your native language? If we post you in India, how fluent will you be? How many languages do you know in India? We have heard that there are thousands of dialects in India, and there are many other languages. How many can you speak? So it's important to be proud of your roots, to be proud of your heritage, even if tomorrow you plan to settle abroad. So I had a very humble beginning in life. Today, you might see books all around me. I have a separate room, a study. But since you are discussing United Nations, I should mention this. I was a refugee. I came from a family of Kashmiri Pandits from Kashmir, and we were victims of terrorism. And for the first 3 months, we stayed in a camp, and that camp was a garage, a car garage. Imagine that. So I have stayed in a car garage when I was merely a year old, with my family members, losing everything, home and earth, and thus began life. And I don't know any pains because my parents didn't let me feel that pain. But my parents have gone through enough to begin life afresh, to not let me feel any depressing days, any kind of despair in life. So you guys are lucky. You guys are lucky that your parents for years together have strived so hard to not make you feel any pain. You guys get pocket money. You guys get all the support that you should get. I'm not against it, but make them proud. Make them proud in whatever you do. Be a singer, be a dancer, be a golfer, anything that you strive to achieve. But respect your parents, respect your roots, respect your grandparents, and take that forward. I should mention this. Many of my friends, when they speak to their parents, they scream, "Arey, aap aisa kyun nahi karte? Aap aisa kyun nahi karte?" But it's important to respect your parents, because you don't know what they have done to make you feel comfortable in life and get you here at Khaitan Public School, become a part of Khaitan family, and strive harder each day. So I'm very excited. I'm very happy. I'm sure even after this small introduction of mine, you can reach out to me for any kind of career counseling, anything that you might want to discuss with me anywhere on social media, etc. And so I would just end by saying that have conviction of courage in life, have conviction of courage of striving in whatever stream you want to pursue. Just go ahead, determined that you will meet success someday, because you need to just keep trying hard. And that's where, success lies. And failure, as I said, is just a part of a larger process. If I had not failed in my college, if I had not been perhaps a shy boy back in my school, perhaps I wouldn't have been here, interviewing the External Affairs Minister, or perhaps in the last few years, visiting 20 countries in many capacities with the Prime Minister of India. So I had never imagined that. I had never fathomed that, someday I will travel with the Prime Minister of India and, travel all across the globe, covering multilateral forums, or even standing outside the United Nations. Last year, I'll end this with a small story. There's a page called Humans of New York, a very popular page in the United States, created by a photographer. And one fine day, I was walking in the streets of Delhi, and I met this American, and he introduced himself, and he said, "I run this page, Humans of New York. I want to interview you." I said, what did you see in my face? Why do you want to interview me? He said, "No, you just feel so intriguing, so I want to interview you." So he interviewed me, he interviewed my father, and he ended up saying that, "Not you, I'll interview your father then." So he interviewed my father. And then a few months later, I was in Kashmir in 2014. There were massive floods coming in. I was stuck there. I was reporting from there for a month or so. And someone texted me that, your story has come up on Humans of New York, and there are almost like 4 lakh likes on that Facebook story. And I was like, okay, I read that story, and that was just my father's word, one paragraph. It said that, when I was in Kashmir, I told my best friend that, my son, I want my son to be like Lord Ram. He should be telling the truth to the entire world. And I know that someday my son will come up, and if I have a son, he will speak the truth to the power, and he will speak truth to the entire world. And he said in that story to Humans of New York, 16 years later, I was sitting in a room in Rajasthan, and in that room, a foreigner came to me and he said, "Utpal, your son is on the television." So my father told him, where, which television? He said, "All television channels. Just look, switch on the television. He's all over." So my father switched on the television in Rajasthan. He had no idea what his son was up to. And I was on all television channels because in 2006, I had started this campaign, Justice for Priyadarshini Mattu, unfortunately a victim of rape and murder. And I decided with her parents and others, just by chance, that there should be a campaign to deliver justice. And all TV channels interviewed me. I was all across as a 16-year-old. And that was my claim to fame. I was not an activist. No social organization or NGO had helped me. It just happened. I even say that, I'm not intellectual enough to organize this. It just happened. I was lucky to, organize it. And he said, I was all across the televisions. And he remembered that day, 17 years back, when he had told his friend that, my son would be there and he will be narrating the truth to the world. So, dream, my friends, dream big. You don't know what tomorrow has in store for. And I'm sure in the leadership, in the intellectual horizon of Anirudh Khaitan and Sonia Anil Verma and all other teachers and educationists, you will strive big. So very happy, very thrilled that Model United Nations is being organized here, and all the very best to all the participants.
Thank you very much, sir. This was so inspiring. We are greatly honored to have you as a part of this event. Hearing your encouraging words and anecdotes just boosts up our morale. It's a part of our legacy that we present our token of love and gratitude to our guests who enlighten us with their presence and inspiring words. Taking the legacy forward, we would like to extend to you our gratitude in the form of a green certificate. So, unlike other certificates, this special token of gratitude means that a tree is being planted in your name in the Himalayan biodiversity, Shimla, Himachal Pradesh. This certificate has a barcode which can be scanned to know the details. Thank you, sir, for doing the honors.
Now we would like to call upon our Vice Chairman, Mr. Anirudh Khaitan, sir, to share his words of wisdom with us.
Thank you, everyone. The students, the delegates, Mr. Rajkol, Sonia. It's really, really amazing to see this MUN happening. And I'm sure most of you know, but I had to say it. It is a completely student-led, webinar conference, and having 300 delegates from all over the world is amazing. Mr. Aditya, amazing story you have, and I'm going to definitely read more about you, but hearing your words, it's truly inspiring. Just want to touch upon a few things you said. The English language, and I'll tell you a little story about myself. I also used to be very enamored by this, English language, and a few years ago, I heard this gentleman, Dr. Velumani, who's just sold his company called Thyrocare. And I'd gone and met him, and he was doing this amazing learning event, and he said something there which completely changed my thought. And he says, in our country, we look at English as such a great thing, and he said that English is just a language; it's not a knowledge. It's not knowledge, and that is kind of what changed my whole outlook. And I said, you know what? He's right. We are so enamored by this language, English. It's just a tool to communicate. But the real thing is the knowledge, and that's one thing I would like to share. That you're completely right. We have to know our roots. Not saying we should not know English as a language, because it's very useful. It's a world language, but that's all it is. It doesn't make you smart. It doesn't make you knowledgeable. The second thing, you said many things, but these are the two things I would like to pick on. The second thing you said is about problems. Again, very right. Success is filled with problems. My favorite saying is by Dr. Narayan Murthy, where he said, "It took me 25 years to become an overnight wonder." And I think that's the most beautiful saying. It kind of lays out the life story of every successful human being. I have realized in the last 5 years the difference between I call the successful people and the not so successful people. And there is only one key difference. There's nothing else. Is successful people view problems differently. So to give an example, let's say if you're doing some work, some business, and a problem comes to you. Successful people will look at that problem, dissect it, find a solution, and go forward. While people who struggle will look at the problem, will get emotionally scarred, they'll sit down and they'll break down. That is the only difference. It's all up here. When a problem comes to you, just remember this thought that you have to look at the problem in a different manner to dissect it and to solve it. That's it. I just wanted to pick on these two things. I'm just so proud to see all my students here, and it's really heartwarming to see all these children grow up. I've seen them grow up since they were really young, and it's really so nice to see this MUN being conducted, the third edition. I remember 3 years ago when we started it, I was a very deep part of it, but now it's just running on its own, and it's doing far better than when we started it. But yeah, congratulations, and let's go ahead. Thank you. Over back to you, the committee. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, sir.
Now, I would like to invite our Head of Delegate Affairs, Asta Arora, to address the gathering on behalf of the Delegate Affairs team and the Secretariat.
Good morning, fellow delegates, esteemed chairs, and distinguished guests. It's a great honor to be here amongst you. It is indeed a privilege to speak on behalf of the Secretariat. As Delegate of Head, I would like to thank my team, USG Delegate Affairs, Ms. Lakshita Sharma, and USG Networking, Ms. Urvi Tyagi, who, with a strong determination, worked hard and did a marvelous job in handling many things, from mailing, calling, promotions, and handling last-moment changes professionally. It was exhilarating to work with the organizing team with the creative OC members. I feel honored to announce that in the third edition of KhaitanMUN Global Thinkers Conclave, we have welcomed delegations from all around the world, reaching the ballpark figure of 325 delegates. This wouldn't have been possible without the valuable guidance of our mentor, Ms. Chauhan, and Secretary General Rashi Ratan. I feel elated to coordinate with my friends from United Arab Emirates, Myanmar, Nepal, Poland, Bahrain, and India. The committee sessions will also be graced by students from 55 renowned schools around the globe, like High Range School Odisha, Sriram School Aravali, Indus Valley World School Kolkata, the New Horizon School Bahrain, State MR Jaipuriya School Babatpur, Sapphire International School, Gurukulda School, Gems International School, and many more. I take this as a moment of pride to welcome all of you to the two-day conference. We are all set to witness a much-awaited moment of the Khaitan Thinkers Conclave 3.0 opening ceremony. I wish all my friends the best of luck. I'm sure we will have a great learning experience and will enjoy the conference.
Thank you, Asta.
As is customary, no MUN conference begins without the declaration of the opening of the debate by the Secretary General. So I now hand the dais over to the Secretary General of KhaitanMUN Global Thinkers Conclave, Rashi Ratan, to declare the conference open. Over to you, Rashi.
Thank you so much, Abhay. Greetings, Honorable Chief Guest, Chairpersons, delegates, and the staff and students of Khaitan Public School. Organizing the KhaitanMUN Global Thinkers Conclave is a different experience every year, regardless of the mode of the conference. But one thing that I can assure you of is that it is always a roller coaster ride, both for the organizers and the participants. After about a year and a half of lockdowns and reopening and repeat, we've all been constantly changing and adapting, much like the virus and its mutations. These last few months have been extremely stressful for all of us, and we have all lost so many loved ones. We pray for all those families and hope the souls of all our loved ones rest in peace. I would like everyone here to take note of the strength we all have, that even after all these difficult times, we are here, ready to think and ready to change the world for the better. So, the conceptualization of Global Thinkers Conclave 3.0 was interesting. This is our third edition of the conference, yet, akin to the previous one, we wanted something new and different and exciting. Hence, the ideas of child-friendly cities, prison reforms, future of gaming industry, among many others came up. And for the next 2 days, we will watch our efforts take shape and become real and tangible. So, with no further delay, I, Rashi Ratan, the Secretary General of KhaitanMUN Global Thinkers Conclave 3.0, declare the conference open.
Thank you, Rashid.
Dear audience, here's the opening of the riveting 2-day conference full of qualitative debate. Now that the event has formally been declared open, we would request you to join your respective committees using the link emailed to you. The committee schedule for the timing of the 2-day conference has already been mailed to you. Kindly refer to the same. We hope that you join your committees very comfortably. However, in case of any query, we have our committed members to help you out. Kindly text in the WhatsApp group of your respective committees. You can also contact Chef the Cabinet, Ms. Sriram Chauhan, Secretary General, Ms. Ratri Pen, or Head of Delegate Affairs, Ms. Asta Arora. We look so forward to meeting you in the discussions. We are sure that you will enjoy every bit of this engaging, interacting, and invigorating session. Thank you.